Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Let's do that again, shall we? It is Tuesday, and it has been raining steadily all night long. So I just opened up the window a crack because you know what time it is, right? It's early for me, and you know how little bit gets early in the morning. But anyway, I was talking to someone, and people get tired. You hear them say, I am so tired of trying to change. And I say, well, you're doing too much. Let me explain what it means to do too much. Because remember, where the battle happens, it all happens in the mind. That is the battlefield, right? But where is it happening between? Which two parties is this battle happening? It is happening between the logical and the neurological. Remember, the neurological is what you have always done. The logical is what you would like to do. That's the difference. The logical is what you would like to do, what you would like to become. But the neurological is what you already are. And those two things, mind you, they seem like two things, but they are not. It's just you, just one you. And so what happens with us is we have this internal struggle between these two things. And what wears us out, what makes us tired, what makes us do too much is not recognizing that you're fighting yourself. Okay? Not recognizing that you're fighting yourself. How so? Because we look outside of ourselves and we see the struggle, we see what's happening, we can feel it. And sometimes the first thing we say is, the universe is testing me. God is testing me. I gotta learn this lesson. No. Flip the perspective if you must. Recognize that you're dealing with the logical side of yourself, which means, you're conscious, you can see what's going on around you, and you know when you want to make a change. That's logical. It's totally natural. The neurological side says, wait a minute, I have been doing this thing for years, and you want me to change on a dime? No, you've got to be kidding. You see, this is where the saying, old habits die hard, come from. You're fighting the habit. One does not fight a habit because the habit will always win. Why does the habit always win? Because you've been doing it the longest. So in order to defeat your habit, so to speak, you make a new one. And some say, but Angela, you make it sound so easy. But really, it's easier said than done. And I'm like, but at first it appears to be easier said than done, only because you've never done it before. Right? The first thing we say as people is, well, I can't be that consistent. That's just too much work to be consistent with that. When in actuality, you are consistently doing the thing you don't want to do anymore. Why? Because of the habit. What do we say about people? We are creatures of what now? Habit. You see, we say things, but we don't hear what we say. We are creatures of habit. A habit is the principle of rhythm. Rhythm says there's a pattern, there's an ebb, there's a flow. Rhythm compensates. This is what rhythm is, and we all have a rhythm. Can't escape it. We all have a pattern. So when you see your pattern, when you see it, that is 98% of the work right there. The recognition of the pattern. Because now you know you're not crazy. Now you know, oh my God, this is not so hard after all. Why? Because now you know how to make a new pattern, a new habit. How do you make a habit? By choosing something and doing it the same way every time. This is how one makes a habit. So, what makes a habit stick? Well, a couple of things. The desire to want to do it. That's one, the desire to want to do it. And two, repetition. That is how one makes a habit. You see, we think that habits are so hard to start, but they're not. All you got to do is the same thing the same way every time, and bam, there it is. But what makes the habit stick even faster is the desire that you want to do this. Oh, you love doing it. And even in the beginning, if you don't love doing it, and this is where the word addiction stems from. Why? Because it is something you do the same way every time. You are compelled to do it. So now, let's paint the picture for you. Here you are logically wanting to change. And doing everything on the outside to change. But on the inside, you have a pattern. And the pattern must be fulfilled. That's why you are compelled to do it. There's an inner force. You heard this saying, the force of habit, which means the strength of habit, the power of habit. That's what force means. And it also means to compel, to make you do something. That's the power a habit has. And that is never going to change. But what helps you to stop doing so much is the recognition that you're just following a habit. A habit is neither good, bad, nor indifferent, because that would be a judgment. And the moment you judge the habit, you feel bad about yourself. And then what happens? You continue to do it because you feel bad. And so the way to change the situation is to recognize that you're going to need a habit to get out of the present habit that you're in. Because that's what we do. We just change from one thing to the next. So when you're looking at any habit, it does not matter what that habit is. All the habit is something that you have done the same way every time. That is all it is. It has no power. It really doesn't. Because it could not have gotten there if you didn't practice it. So where does the power lie? The power lies within you. It lies within you to make the decision to say, I want to become ... And as you make the decision, your desire to change. And some people say, but Angela, change is scary. No, change is not unknown to you. Because we think the change is unknown, because we think we don't know what's going to happen, that's what scares us about change. But if you are the one to say, I want to become this is what I'm changing into, then why are you scared? You have already set out the parameters of what you want to become, so it is not out of the blue. You've chosen. So here's what happens when you do too much. You are fighting between what you want to be and what you are. And the reason why what you are wins every time is only because you've done it longer. You have consistently done this particular thing. So the key to your freedom is consistently do the other. I know it seems incredibly simple. I know it does, but that is because it is. Think about what you're presently doing. You didn't do it once and stop. You didn't do it twice and stop. You didn't do it 3 times and say, oh, this isn't working. You didn't even know you were doing it. You just did it. And then all of a sudden you said, how did I get here? Where did this come from? Well, I don't want to do this. You see, you have always been consistent. Always. You've always been faithful. You would not have accomplished anything had you not stayed the course and been patient and been persistent. So if you can do it with something you do not want, you can also do it with something that you do want. So, as I prattle on, let me tell you how, or shall I say tell you the process, because we all do the process all day, every day. Step 1, you recognize who and what you are. Meaning, what are you going through at the moment? What are you dealing with at the moment? If you're a woman, what are you dealing with? Mind you, men and women deal with things all together, but we have different ways of expressing ourselves. Men express themselves in a particular way because of their design. Women express themselves in another way because of their design. One's not more expressive than the other. Women aren't too emotional. Men are not too emotional. It is just that one of you is like fire, and that is a man. Why? Because a man does. He moves. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of testosterone. That is like fire. So everything he does will have the nature of fire behind it. Whereas a woman is like water. And still waters run deep. It takes a lot to churn that water up. But once the water is churned up, heaven help us all. So we're not so different. We're just elemental beings. But we are so hard on each other. Us, men and women. So today, whatever you're going through, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, and you're trying to figure it out, observe yourself first. What are you presently doing that you do not want to do? I don't know what that is, but you do. First of all, there's no shame in it. Shame is a nasty thing because it is parasitic. You know what a parasite is. We talk about that all the time. Oh my God, you gotta do a parasite cleanse. But yet we don't get rid of guilt, nor do we get rid of shame. And they're the first 2 parasites that should go. They rob you of any iota of happiness you could possibly have. Why? Guilt makes you say, oh, I feel so bad. I shouldn't have. And then you beat yourself up. Shame is its partner, and it says, oh, but you know, they're gonna laugh at you. You can't tell anybody these things. You can't share who you truly are because they're gonna judge you. And then you keep that stuff all inside. But you can't escape it. If you're feeling guilty, if you're feeling ashamed, as within, so without. You will display it on the outside for all to see, even though you think it is hidden. And it will rot everything you touch. So how does one even get rid of guilt and shame? They are just habitual feelings that you've had. You've had them all the time. And you keep feeling them all the time. Remember, doing the same thing the same way every time. So they're just habits now. So if you don't want to feel guilty, you don't want to feel ashamed, what do you want to feel? Well, you want to feel sure of yourself and you want to feel accepted. Obviously, that is the natural thing. So how do you do it? Well, it starts on the inside because one only ever recreates themselves from the inside out. From the inside out. So you see that voice in the back of your head, as we call it, the inner critic, that tells you, change, you? Well, you're just like your mother, you're just like your father. You're just like this person. Well, you'll never be that person. That inner voice is what I'm talking about. The one that plagues us sometimes. It is not what you are. It really isn't what you are. Because the inner voice, the still small voice, and I'll tell you how to recognize it. Have you ever said, oh man, I should have done that. Oh shoot, I'm so glad I did it. You know, one of those two times. You heard do this and you did it. You heard don't do that and you didn't. And you said, oh, I'm real glad I listened. Or shoot, I should have listened. You see that inner voice? That's the one. That's the beautiful one. Because it will always guide you, not just to do what is quote unquote right, but it will guide you to do what uplifts you and others at all times. Never harmful. Remember that. So that is the inner voice you want to pay attention to. The judgmental one, not so much. And you'll know the difference. One of them will make you feel, the hills are alive. That's how one will make you feel. And the other one makes you feel, why me, Lord? Yeah, all comes down to that feeling. So how do you change? You first examine where you are without judgment. Oh my God, I'm 50. I should be further in life. Look at everybody else. They're doing so much better than me. No. That's the biggest roadblock to change. That's the surefire way to keep yourself where you are. So if that's what's going through your head, and that's what experience you're having, well then you say, oh, I see you. I see you. Just see it for what it is. A habit. Just see it. And now that you see it, you ask yourself a very important question. What would I be doing if I were the man or the woman I wanted to be? What would I possibly be doing? How would I wake up in the morning? How would I walk out my door? How would I greet my neighbors? What would I be doing if I were my ideal self? And as you begin to answer that question, you do not taint the answer with, yeah, but it might not be possible. I'll tell you what's possible. Ask the artist, the painter, the sculptor, the author, the seamstress, the chef. Ask them what is possible, and they'll tell you what I see in my head is possible. Well, how else would they make it? They have to see it somewhere first in order to recreate it. So they make the original stencil, which is the idea, the image within themselves. So does a choreographer, mind you. They hear this piece of music and then they see the footwork. They feel the way the body moves. That's a choreographer. Where are they getting it from? Within. And how do they get it out? By practicing it from within. They start to see the dance moves and they get in front of the mirror and they do what they saw themselves do inside their mind. That is how you change, because that is how you started out in the first place. You heard something in your head. You're the sweetest child ever. And you started to behave like what you saw, the sweetest child. Oh my God, you're such a brat. Why don't you ever listen? You're so dumb. You started to see it in your head, and thus you started to act it out.